Okay, guys, so we've been working with our linear functions, we've been working with slope, and so what we're going to focus on in this last week of lessons is going to be something called slope-intercept form. And slope-intercept form is going to be an equation that is used using slope to find a line on a graph. So this first lesson is going to be all about what is that equation, how is it made, what's the information, and then the next lesson this week is going to be about how we take that equation and we put it on a graph, and that's actually going to finish us up for the year. So slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, and this might be something that you've seen or heard before. In that equation, m is your slope, B is your y-intercept. In other words, where does that line cross the y-axis? The actual letters x and y are going to remain in our equation. They're going to still be letters while the m and the b change to numbers. So the first three questions here say to write the equation of the line in slope-intercept form with the given slope and y-intercept. So really this is a matter of just taking the two values they give you, putting them in the right spot. Slope has to go where the m is, y-intercept has to go where the letter b is. So for example, here I'm going to say, okay, y equals, slope is 2x, y-intercept of positive 6. So y equals 2x plus 6. Done. I don't have to do anything with it. That's all they want me to do is put the numbers in. So slope of 2/3, y-intercept of -4. So y equals 2/3x. When your y-intercept is a negative number, use that negative as a minus sign in place of your plus sign. So because I'm looking at -4, I'm going to write that as a -4. Rather than saying plus -4, where you're going to have two symbols in a row, we really want to avoid those two symbols in a row. This is a lot easier to read, and it will be more helpful in our next lesson. Last one, slope of -9, y-intercept of -1. So y equals a -9x minus 1. And so again, that's all we need to do, put the numbers in. The remaining part of our notes today are going to be given an equation. Can you state the slope? Can you state the y-intercept of the graph of that equation? So without actually making the graph, can you tell me what the slope is? Can you tell me what the y-intercept is? And so again, this is sort of just the reverse. You want to pull out the slope as that value for m. You want to pull out that b value as our y-intercept. And you're just going to list what they are. So for example, this first question says y equals 3x plus 1. So my slope is going to equal that +3. My y-intercept, and I'll just abbreviate a little bit, is going to be the +1. And that's all we're looking for. Okay, so here on number 5, I'm just going to set up my slope and my y-intercept, and then we'll fill them in. Okay, so when I look at this one, my slope is this fraction, so my slope is a 1/4. My y-intercept, remember we use that negative as a minus, so make sure that you say that your y-intercept is a -6. Okay, if you want to hit pause and try 6 and 7 on your own quick, go ahead. The main thing when you look at 6 and 7 over here is in number 6, yes, you have y equals -2x. Think of this as being sort of that invisible +0 at the end. So here my slope is -2, my y-intercept is 0, and on number 7, my slope is -4, and my y-intercept is -5. And so that's what we're looking at. Okay, let's look at the next group. In this group, look at these equations. I still have my y in each one, but y is not by itself. These don't say y equals. There's something over here with the y. So the key to these problems is before I can just say, hey, this is the slope and this is the y-intercept, I'm going to have to make sure that it's set up as y equals mx plus b. And so in order to do that, I'm going to have to do a little bit of math first. Okay? And so the idea is whatever is on the same side of the equal sign with your y, you want to do the opposite to move it. So if this is a negative 4x, remember we do a plus 4x. And if I do a plus 4x, y is going to equal a positive 4x plus 2 because that 2 is positive. Make sure you put this 4x in front of the 2 so that it's mx plus b, right? We want that setup. That's our goal. And so now I can answer the fact that my slope is a positive 4 and my y-intercept is a positive 2. If I take the same approach over here on number 9, I have this positive 2, so I'm actually going to subtract 2 from both sides. So y is going to equal x minus 2. Oops, there we go. Notice there's nothing in front of my x. Remember, there's always an invisible 1, and so if you wanted to write it with that 1, you could do that. And so that means if I'm finding my slope is going to be that positive 1. My y-intercept is going to be that negative 2. Again, hit pause if you want to try 10 and 11 on your own quick. On number 10, we would add 5 to both sides. This had a negative x, so if it's helpful for you to write it as a negative 1x, then go ahead and do that. That means that negative 1 is my slope, the positive 5 is my y-intercept. On number 11, I would subtract 6x from both sides, so y equals negative 6x minus 3. Your slope is therefore the negative 6, your y-intercept the negative 3. So if y is not by itself, you need to add or subtract the item that is with it in order to get y by itself. And then our last group of problems, not only is y not by itself, but now y even has a number stuck to it. So I'm still going to do the same steps I did in the last row of questions, that I'm going to use my addition or subtraction, but then I'm going to need to do an additional step. So first thing, when I look at number 12, this 4x is on the wrong side, let's say. So first thing I'm going to do is that's a positive 4x. I'm going to come in here. We're going to subtract 4x from both sides. So a negative 2y is equal to a negative 4x plus 10. Okay? In order for me to get y by itself, this is negative 2 times y. And the opposite of multiplication is division. But in order for me to divide, let me fix that. In order for me to divide by negative 2 over here, that's a little better, I need to divide everything by negative 2. So all 3 items in my equation must divide by the same value. So here my negative 2's are gone. I get y equals negative 4 divided by negative 2 is positive 2x. 10 divided by negative 2 is negative 5. So if y equals 2x minus 5, that means that my slope is that positive 2, and my y-intercept is negative 5. And ultimately, that's still what they're asking me for here, is to list those 2 values. So I'm going to take the same approach to number 13. So I've got 3y, but I have this minus 6. So first thing I got to do, I got to add that 6 to both sides. So my 3y is equal to my 5x plus 6. Okay? I need to get y by itself, and right now y has this 3 stuck to it. So I need to divide that 3 away, but that means I have to divide everything by 3. And so y is going to equal 5 divided by 3. If it doesn't divide to make a whole number, keep the fraction. Slope is okay as a fraction, and in many ways, it's actually going to be very helpful to us in our next lesson. So 5 over 3x and 6 divided by 3 makes a positive 2. So here, when I'm giving my slope and my y-intercept, the slope is my fraction, right? So my slope is going to be that 5 over 3. Positive 2 is my y-intercept. So if you want to give 14 and 15 a shot, go ahead and hit pause. On number 14, I had this 15. I'm going to subtract 15 from both sides. Negative 5y equals 20 minus 15. I need to divide this negative 5 away, which means I divide everything. So negative 5 and negative 5 go away. 20 divided by negative 5 is a negative 4x. Negative 15 divided by negative 5 is positive 3. So in my final equation, negative 4 is my slope, positive 3 is my y-intercept. Last one, subtract 8 from both sides. I have 2y. This 12 did not have an x, which means 12 minus 8 is 4. Divide by 2 and y equals 2, which might seem a little strange. What you can think is happening here, and if it helps, you could write it this way, that y would equal a 0x plus 2, right? There was no x term, so it's the same as saying 0x. And so if I have 0x, my slope is 0, my y-intercept is a positive 2. So like I said, in our next video, we'll look at how do we graph these equations.